Hey, Naturally Connected Life. You're Eric and Rachel here. And today we're going to be talking about a really important topic. And I think most people kind of um, undervalue the importance of this discussion. And that is talking about de-stressing our online life. So, just to illustrate how incredibly powerful this is, there was a study of over 5,000 people that directly showed higher social media use correlated with declines in mental and physical health and life satisfaction. Now, it's a chicken or the egg situation, which came first, but needless to say, social media didn't help. And, and I'm totally guilty of this, saying, oh, I'm kind of stressed out. It's the end of the day, I had a lot to do. So maybe I'll just scroll social media to try to relax. But it just doesn't work. And many studies have showed that social media does increase stress, even when we're watching videos of puppies, because as we're scrolling through and we're seeing things and, all the little hits, the little notifications, they all trigger stress responses. And what's his name? Cal Newport showed that, this is not just a symptom of social media, it's a symptom of our phones in general. Because every time we get a notification or a buzz on our phone, it triggers stress hormones and it completely disrupts our line of thought. So this is a big problem. And as you can see, 5,000 people, it showed this doesn't just affect our mental health, it affects our physical health. So now I believe we will play a video. Is that right, Rachel?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, did you want to add anything into that?
Nope. Just that, it is a huge problem. And I think that we don't realize the impact that it's having because it's a silent problem and it's kind of a slow creeping problem that many people have just come to live with. This attention, inability to have attention and everything. So I know that many people that we talk with complain about brain fog and mental fatigue and things like that. And obviously those things are physical symptoms that are very likely also impacted by these kind of problems. The internet, the constant work, the constant barrage of information, it really is doing a number on our neural pathways, which are much more primitive actually than we are, than the technology and the algorithms are. So
yeah, absolutely. And from a neurobiochemical standpoint, one of the things that people are constantly talking about is dopamine. And, this is playing into that dopamine reward center, but in a stressful way, which means that the body is going to take that extra dopamine and add a little oxygen molecule to it and turn that into norepinephrine, which is a major stress hormone. When it is out of alignment, can cause all kinds of problems. And this shows up, for example, in men, it can cause erectile dysfunction. All right, because norepinephrine is a vasoconstrictor, and that's what's happening throughout the body. Okay, so vasoconstrictors happen when we want to increase blood pressure and kind of compress everything. And if we continue to do that to our bodies, that becomes almost a default, right? Where we're not even just having that response to stress anymore. It's just becoming our baseline. And social media and phone addiction is dramatically contributing to that underlying constant physiological stress. So if anybody's seen The Social Dilemma, if not, I highly recommend it, because this is not an accident. This is not a conspiracy theory. The tools that we use every day and become reliant on are designed to be used more than is necessary. They want to capture your attention. That is part of their business model. It's not a bad thing. It's just something that if we can understand how it's affecting us, we can much better navigate it and use it to our benefit rather than to our detriment. So, anything you want to add to that, Rachel?
Nope.
Oh, one thing, I don't know, this was something I had to break myself of because, so for example, in my cell phone, I've turned off all alerts. The only thing that goes off is calendar alerts so that I know, when I have to be doing something. Otherwise, my phone does not beep or vibrate ever. And when it was still vibrating, I would constantly think I was feeling it vibrating in my pocket or anywhere. And it's actually known as phantom vibration syndrome. It's a real thing. It's diagnosable. And it creates this kind of like high stress, high alert condition, and it can affect sleep patterns, digestion, and a lot of other things. And then, and then at a personal level, it can affect our relationships, right? Because we're not really present. We're just kind of like our attention is kind of focused on being alert for our phone to do something, right? And so this goes a lot deeper than just how it affects our health. It affects our relationships, and our relationships are a major source of our connection and meaning in our life. And that's why when they interview people who have lived to be 100, 110, one of the consistent things, it's not diet, it's not exercise, it's having connection and meaning in their lives. And if we are putting more emphasis on the virtual aspects of relationships in our lives than on the present, physically present ones, that's going to create a deficit and an imbalance. And so that's why one of the first things that we need to address whenever we want to start, decluttering, de-stressing, improving our lives, improving our health, improving our relationships, is just looking at how to use technology in a more constructive and meaningful way. So I'll give that to you, Rachel.
Okay. So what are some of the healthy boundaries that you can do to create a balance in your life? How can you find that balance between having to use your phone, having to check your email, having to, live life in the modern world, and still remain, calm and centered? So many people, it's not just social media. It might be work. It might be your email. It might be some other form of distraction that is internet related. Whatever it is, it might be Netflix binging. There's so many different facets of this now that it's becoming even more and more present. Our entire downtime is generally filled with some sort of media intake. And so we have to find, how are you finding ways to create a meaningful and fulfilling life that are separate from this constant media barrage and are centered around, just media. So what can you do? So one of the things that you can do is to create media-free spaces. So say your bedroom or whatever, we specifically advocate for your bedroom being screen-free for many, many reasons, more than just the fact that, you're looking at your phone constantly, but then the distraction of that. But it also, it's not good to sleep with a phone next to your head, EMFs, 5G, whatever you want to throw into that category. Creating a digital free space is really important. We know many people who actually turn their internet off during the night. We don't do that mostly because it's just really hard to get to. But we might consider it if it wasn't. But doing that, it kind of allows your house to be this sacred bubble for a little while. So no screens in bed, especially 30 minutes before or 30 minutes after waking. Those are some key times when your brain is processing information at a different rate. So when you're sleeping and when you're preparing for bed and right when you wake up, that's why it's recommended to meditate during those times too, because your brain waves are in closer to theta waves. And so you're going to be more relaxed. You're actually more susceptible to suggestions or information during when you're in those brain waves. So we really don't want to spike those cortisol hormones right in the first thing in the morning. It's just not good for you. It's not conducive to a productive day, and it's also just not conducive to sleep either. So making sure that you're not using your phone in those times. Turning off, like Eric said, turning off all notifications. I know that a lot of people have done that at this point. Many people have done that, but remember that just turning off notifications doesn't necessarily get rid of your phantom itch problem. In fact, it might increase your phantom itch problem because you're going to continue to check your phone for whatever. So there's, plus and minuses.
So one of the things how I help to avoid that is that, I tell people if it's really urgent or important, do not text me, call me so that my phone rings. Because otherwise, yeah, you get this constant itch to just keep checking and checking and checking.
Yeah.
And then checking for messages leads to checking Instagram or whatever.
Yeah. Also, your attention when we talk about social media, and all of the social media platforms are free, right? So your attention is their product. So your attention is what they sell to their advertisers. So you need to remember that if you're trying to lead this connected life, lead this, you're very mindful, you would never let your child watch, TV or regular TV, it's fine to watch Netflix because there's no commercials or whatever. Like, if you are consciously living in this, if you're trying to consciously live in a ad-free space, you have to remember that you are becoming the ad every single time that you log in to social media. And that's something that the Social Dilemma movie actually goes much deeper into. But remember that, they are using your attention for their gain. So what are some other ways? You can also turn off things like autoplay features for Netflix. Or Netflix or Hulu or even YouTube, because many times the videos just like constantly keep coming, and that's those deep rabbit holes. I think that, I don't remember who it is, it's a famous basketball player maybe, was like, I became a flat earther just from watching like YouTube rabbit holes, or whatever. Eric knows, I don't remember who it was, but it's pretty much like you just get off on these tangents and you waste time. You waste so much time, right, when you're going down these rabbit holes. So the autoplay features can be easily turned off. They might hide them, but you can find ways, and you just, a simple Google search will help you to find ways to turn off the autoplay features on Netflix or YouTube or any of those. Any other things that you want to suggest, Eric, that are tips and tricks?
Well, I think it's always important to just be compassionate with yourself, and to treat this like any other addiction, which is not lack of character or failure on your behalf. It's neurologically, it's a disease, and it's going to take time and consistency and just retraining your habits to create a different outcome. So, with that being said, I think a really important place to start, like Rachel said, is to create those, mobile device, screen time, free bookends on your day where, look, it doesn't matter how heated that argument is with, your uncle, uh, about whatever politics or everything is happening, it's still going to be there in the morning. You don't need to check it, after you've put the kids to bed, and you're, trying to have some quiet time to yourself. Just be deliberate and say, okay, well, okay, maybe I'm going to use my phone to listen to a meditation. All right, that's all right. But can you set the intention to not quickly check your Instagram notifications right before you turn on the meditation, right? Like, that's the challenge. And, then, Cal Newport, what he says to do is to just be like, okay, look, for 30 days, you can totally live without all that stuff. If you don't need it for work or, urgent communications, just turn it off for 30 days. And then constructively choose, do I need to have both Instagram and Facebook, or maybe I could just have Instagram? Maybe that's the only one that I really need. Or maybe Facebook is the one that's really important to me because that's where all my friends and family are and I want to stay connected to them there. But it allows you to just make those types of constructive decisions, and then to say, well, you know what, I went a whole month without it. So maybe I could just get by with limiting it to 10 minutes during my lunch break, only Monday through Friday. And that's enough. Right? And and you just have to figure out what those healthy boundaries look like for you.
So there are good ways to use apps. Like the screen time app allows you to set limits. There's also a app that you can use on both your computer and your phone called Freedom, and Freedom is one of the best ones because you can be if you pay for the paid version of it, you can pretty much like stop yourself from going on anywhere on the internet, or turn the internet off completely for periods of time. So it's wonderful for that. So remember those things, to use technology tools to help you to make this more effective. Some other things, remember that like Eric was saying, like, don't check it's the real struggle is to not check your Instagram right before you sit down to meditate or whatever. The part of the thing with meditation or journaling or any of those things that are very mindful and intentional is that if you go straight from looking at Instagram to sitting down to meditate, you're actually wasting some of your meditation time, because your mind is like still going to be processing those images and those things that you just saw on social media, and you're going to be formulating responses to those, and it's not really that effective of a use of your meditation time, when you should be trying to get a little bit more clarity, be a little bit more of an open channel. So journaling is pretty much the same way. You kind of like lose the integrity of like getting close to who you really are and getting deep down when you are constantly doing something digital at the same time. So those are some of the things. There's many wonderful meditations that you can do. We have an entire folder of meditations that we can give you to help with anxiety reduction, to help with breaking habits. There's a specific one about breaking habits. So if that's something that you have trouble with, or you want to break this habit. Another thing that we didn't touch on, Eric, was screen-free mealtime. I think that is really important, and it's not just important for the intentionality of your family. Obviously that is very important, but for yourself, especially even if you're eating by yourself, to not be scrolling and to not be trying to consume some sort of media while you're eating is really important for the mindfulness factor and for your digestive hormones and all of those things that create health.
Absolutely. And that really begins about almost half an hour before you eat, because if you happen to be scrolling, which is going to, increase certain neurotransmitters that are not conducive to digestion, more than likely when you do sit down to eat, then you're not going to be in the happy, restful state you need to be in to digest. So this is really important to say, okay, I'm going to start making a meal right now. So put the phone away and just focus on preparing the food and sitting down to eat the food. And then don't even, rush to check the phone immediately after you finish eating either. Give your body some time on the other side to also focus on that. And so I would suggest, after eating, to even just go for a walk for 5 minutes, or sit down and read for a few minutes. Just do something relaxing before you reopen Pandora's box.
Yep. So, Eric, do you have any other tips, or sorry, any other solutions, exercises to do that are helpful in relieving anxiety around social media, online use, anything like that?
Well, I can say that, what worked for me, and I wouldn't say that I'm not perfect. Okay. These things are a part of our lives and they're not going anywhere. What worked for me was to just stop prioritizing it as if it was, um, essential to life. Leave it at home when you go for walks. Turn on airplane mode when you are spending time with the family or on a walk in nature. Um, and just create bigger and bigger spaces without it until eventually you do find that healthy balance that works for you, right? Because there's no one size fits all to this. It's just a matter of finding your sweet spot.
If you are looking for solutions or help around these areas, please reach out to us. Let us know in your coaching calls. We would love to support you with tools and other ways to help break media addictions. And we also can help with this if it is a problem for, say, your children or your teenagers. We know that the young brains are even more susceptible to these to these sticky online things. So it can be very, very difficult to break that habit. And it can also be very damaging to young minds, young digestions, all of that, to have these as part of a regular part of their life and daily habits. So
Yeah, and the good news is that the way that we are addressing this nutritionally does help overcome some of the stickiness of these addictions by helping to improve neuroplasticity and rebalance neurotransmitters, especially like serotonin and dopamine, while also reducing some of the stress hormones, so that it can help to facilitate the process, especially if we have children who maybe are much more dependent on screen time.
okay, that's all for me.
Great. Yep. Yep. Well, thanks so much, everybody. We'll end the recording here, and then we can take some questions.